particular Friday morning?
It always is. I've got my seatbelt on in my swivel chair, so I'm ready to go. One never really knows what's going to pop up with the Ned and Neil duo here. We've got to come up with names for that. I don't know if I know. Neil was watching it, but the last couple of days we were playing around with what Muppet character we would be.
Yeah, and I think I was it Animal?
You were Animal.
Were you Beaker, Judah? And the show hasn't started yet. Viewers and listeners, give the show a like and a share anywhere you were watching. We got the newspaper watching the program right now. Vanessa Parkhill in Earlysville, hello. Bill McChesney, the mayor of McIntyre, hello. Dr. Rebecca Downey, hello. Harold Hertz, the real estate investor, hello. Ivy Haynes, hello. Welcome to the broadcast. Andre Xavier, Ray Cadell, hello. Caitlin Mancini, hello. Tim Carson, hello. I got your email, Tim Carson. Thank you. Lisa Wayan, hello. Who are you, Beaker, Judah? Beaker and Bunsen.
Well, I think we figured out the one that we were using kind of does a random thing, right? Because there's these 10 questions.
It wasn't very scientific.
It was very. It was fun, right?
It was fun.
It was fun. I got Kermit.
Yeah, you got Kermit.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, Kermit's cool.
Is there a scientific way to figure out what Muppet character you are? Is that out there?
I think it would be somehow from the
we want to be
Briggs-Meyer
factual
test.
and scientific.
About Muppet
Show's
characters.
over. Bye-bye.
You're like, well, it wasn't a very scientific study.
All right, we can rock and roll.
This was
Judah.
done by a PhD out of
Was it,
London.
though? Was it?
It was on the internet.
Oh,
So it must be true.
It must be true.
Must
It must
be
be
true.
true if it's on the interwebs. J Dubs, we're in your hands, my friend. Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us live in downtown Charlottesville in our studio on Market Street in the Macklin Building, just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the courthouse of Albemarle County, which intriguingly is in the city of Charlottesville. Just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the Charlottesville Police Department, the Charlottesville Courthouse, and a lot of movers and shakers. Today's program live wherever you get your social media. I have a feeling the viewership and listenership is going to be escalated even more with many of us inside. The roads are not that bad. I made it from Keswick today. The roads are not that bad. So salute to those that are plowing the roads at the early morning to allow folks like us to do yeoman's work, which is sitting in a chair behind a microphone and talking about the Muppets in Sesame Street. Judah Wickower.
Difficult job.
It's
a difficult job.
Tough job. Somebody's got to do it. Judah Wickower, the director and producer. If you'd go to the studio camera and welcome a distinguished panel. And I want to salute Ned Galloway here. Man's looking sharp. I really like the attire today. Neil Williamson came in with a fantastic hat a la Indiana Jones, which you can see over there. And Keith Smith, my friend, is always looking quite dapper.
No hat. Is that a fedora? Is that technically
It's a Stetson.
Stetson.
It's good. It looks sharp. I very much like it. Good morning, crew. How's everybody doing?
Oh boy, there we go. Okay, take a sip of your coffee, Ned.
Yeah, coffee.
We have
Doing
not.
great. It's not. I haven't been on here in since the summertime. I think.
You've been missed, Ned.
You've been missed. I took it a little personal, but it's okay. I was just kidding around. But we have
Tough schedule.
When was the
Schedule's
last
a
time
little
we
different now.
physically seen each other? It's been a
Well,
while.
that's probably been November, probably.
Right.
Because not all of us are the international jet setters. Keith Smith is.
It's
All right,
started-
seriously.
Real talk without Keith Smith.
It literally started.
I took a sip of my coffee.
There you
It's
go. there
Real
you go.
Talk with Keith Smith, and occasionally it's Real Talk with Michael Guthrie with Keith Smith, Real Talk with Roy Van Doren, Real Talk with Roger Voisinay, Real Talk with Neil Williamson. But hey, it's good to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. At the moment, I wouldn't want to be anyplace else. So let's figure out what Muppet you are.
Me?
Yeah.
Huh?
Are you going to put them through the test?
I'm going to put them to the
It's
test.
10
Oh, so
questions.
there's
It's fun.
questions.
It's
Okay.
fun. It's
Got
fun.
it.
You ready?
Yeah.
This is a tough test. I
All
don't
right.
know if you can handle it.
I'm ready.
Got it. It said, so this is either strongly disagree, agree, or strongly agree at the moment.
Yeah.
A natural leader.
Oh, strongly agree.
Strongly agree.
Yeah.
I'll go there.
Yeah, you're definitely a natural leader.
Should we call Donna?
Donna did great on your show, by the way.
Oh, she was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
She ran the board. Excellent. But you set it up nice for her before she took it over. There
Well,
you go.
she did she on the show the other day. though.
Yeah, she was amazing. She was amazing on the show.
Musically gifted.
Musically gifted, strongly, not
Just-
strongly, nothing strongly in there. I guess I would say agree.
Okay, great. Vain. I must look fabulous at all times, or no?
Strongly agree.
I said strongly agree too. So did I. That's what I
I
have to
tried to
admit
click
this.
it 2 or 3 times. It only let me do it once.
It's a Muppet question. We got to answer honestly.
Aptitude for science, yes or no?
Yes or no? Not the strongly agree.
No, it's a yes or no.
Aptitude for science. Well,
Want
that's
me-
interesting.
You want to go
I'm
back to
going to
that?
say no.
Yes, I know.
Okay. A people's person, strongly agree.
Strongly agree. Yeah.
Good at telling jokes.
Strongly agree.
He's looking like he's going to be animal over here.
A good singing voice.
Is this the strongly
Yeah,
agree?
yeah.
I would say disagree.
Regular disagree or strongly disagree?
I would say disagree.
Got it. Easily scared.
Disagree.
Regular disagree.
Yeah.
Enjoy your food.
Oh, strongly agree.
And the big one, number 10, last one. Did you like this test?
Strongly agree.
Yeah,
Yes.
very similar, Ned and I.
All righty, let's see
What
who
is
you
it?
are. Oh, me and you are the same people.
Kermit?
We're both Kermits.
Wow.
We're both Kermits.
Okay.
Do you want to take it, or do we already know who you are?
I'm good.
Kermit's a cool guy.
Yeah. Kermit.
It's not easy being green.
It's not easy being green.
I think by voice alone, you're the Patriot guy, the captain. What's the Sam the Eagle?
Sam the Eagle.
So
Just your voice. I'm
I
not
was
saying anything
driving
else.
in this morning, and I was talking to Yona that you guys are going to be on today, and I was going to do this stupid cut.
First thing she said was behave, Keith.
That's exactly what she said. No, she said, pay attention. You're driving. But that was the first thing. You remember the 2 dudes that were up in the balcony, the old
Statler
dudes?
and Waldorf. Yeah.
Was it Walter?
Statler, right? Statler and Waldorf.
Yes.
And they
Very
were
nice.
the hecklers through the show, and I was like, I got a feeling they're going to do that through this whole show. So, gentlemen, I don't really have too much on the table to chat today, but Ned, you've have been on a while. For the folks that are watching and listening, anything you want to share new and exciting at Albemarle County?
I mean, we're getting, we're going to be neck deep in budget here in about a month. We had a very content-rich meeting just a few days ago. We found out that what the average real estate assessment increase was on Wednesday, 4.07% countywide. So, when you're neck deep in comp plan and going through chapters like we did the other day, and we know budget's coming, and now real estate assessments are out, I mean, I guess it doesn't get any thicker than that, does it, Neil? It's like,
Well,
that's what we're doing right now.
It really provides context to the comprehensive plan discussion, in so much as backing up to the assessment. Just because the assessment goes up 4%, that doesn't mean necessarily that your property taxes will go up 4%. The property tax rate is set by the supervisors after they know the assessment
And the budget.
and the budget.
It's a three-sided triangle.
The budget piece is really not part of the equation. The budget piece is what's funded by the equation. The equation is the assessment, which by state code must be 100% of market value, times the rate, which is set by the supervisors. The supervisors don't set that rate in a dark room. They set that rate knowing, point blank, what the assessments are. So don't get mad at assessors. They're doing their job. Get mad if you're mad, or get happy if you're happy with your supervisors, because that's where the taxes come from.
I'm going to make you do this Muppets thing because I got to figure out
I
who
love
to call
Neil
you.
so much.
He's definitely Sam
He's
the Eagle.
sitting next to a supervisor and he's telling the people to get mad at the supervisors.
Or get
I
happy.
love him. I love
I
him.
don't think you get happy.
Well,
Because you've got
You
these
could have started with the
comprehensive
happy
plan
first.
You've got these comprehensive plan discussions where everybody wants, a bucket, a pot with a chicken in it, and luckily, because of the supervisors that are on the dais now, a few of them said, "That's great. Who's paying for that?" And that is an important part of a conversation that is often lost when you're looking at a 20-year plan. Because the 20-year plan doesn't have to be funded. For many, many moons, localities have been doing what I call aspirational comprehensive planning. We want to have everyone in an affordable unit. Okay, how are you going to do that?
Ooh, great.
I ask for the A to be attainable rather than aspirational when they're talking about SMART goals.
Neil Williamson, president of the Free Enterprise Forum, coming out of the gates with some fire over here.
Yeah,
I like it.
I'm thinking Ned was right. What was the Captain America character?
Sam the Eagle, man.
Sam the Eagle. I'd say that would be a total Sam the Eagle. Get up on his soapbox and tell it like it is, brother. What do you think there, Ned?
Well, I mean, first off, to get mad or happy at your supervisor is exactly right. I mean, I've said on your show multiple times, every year, if you want to see what people prioritize, see
Budget.
what electeds prioritize, watch what they do during the budget and what they say. So
That's why I think
that's
that third-
absolutely right.
That's why I think that budget portion of that triangle is more important than what you may have mentioned.
Now, the comp plan, and Neil made public comment the other day, before we got into the work session on the comp plan items. But, that's absolutely right, too. I think there's room in a comprehensive plan for aspirational and attainable, but you have to define what is what. Because when people read it, they're going to read all attainable. So, there are certain aspirational things that we do want to do, but realistically, some things may not ever be 100%, but you want to always strive for it. Like keeping your community safe. I would say that I'd want to keep 100% of the community healthy and safe.
Yeah.
Is that 100%? Is that an achievable, attainable goal at 100% level? Probably not. But I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, it's okay if we hit 95%.
Yeah.
So, but the 10,000 units, how many affordable units are we going to bring online? How many actual units are we going to bring online? We're not even in control of the units. Now, that's not something that we should just be aspirationally stating. We should be stating specifics on that one. And that was kind of the nuance of the conversation that was happening Wednesday through what we went through. Good grief, what's
5 chapters.
5 chapters?
5 goals and objectives. Now, this is important for the listeners to hear. This is just the discussion of the goals and objectives. This isn't the actual plan. So we've had this overview first and the 2 work sessions talking about kind of vision and context, and now we have goals and objectives. And then there's going to be yet another work session at the Planning Commission and Board talking about chapters and the actual comp plan before the comp plan comes forward. So this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Just real quickly before we kind of move off of the comp plan, which if you could give the viewer and listeners who maybe not geeks out as much as we may be, what exactly is the comp plan? Why is it important? And how often does it have to happen? And how does it connect with your world, Ned? So if whoever wants to jump in.
Well, comprehensive plans are dictated by the Commonwealth of Virginia for all localities to have a comprehensive plan, a 20-year plan that includes housing, transportation, and a few other chapters are required. Many localities have more chapters than that. It must be reviewed every 5 years. It doesn't have to be redone. It doesn't even have to be examined. Nothing has to
They can
change.
dust it off.
That's all they have to
literally
do.
readopt it.
That's all they have to do.
I think that's an important thing to get out.
In this iteration, Albemarle County has chosen to do a full redo, which is a 3-year plan for updating a plan that has to be updated every 5 years, which is also known as a planner employment plan, to keep the goals meeting what the current community wants them to meet. And so that is where we are in the AC 44 process. In full disclosure, Albemarle County has paid me $143 to be a part of phase 2 of the AC 44 plan, and I cashed the check.
Hold it. Oh, you buying lunch today?
Well, I don't know if I'm still a volunteer because I took the check.
Johnny Ornelas watching the program, the owner of El Mariachi in
I
Guadalajara.
still think you're buying lunch. But that's okay.
Questions are coming in. I will table these questions. We can save them because the show is moving over here. Keith Smith, I can see the wheels turning over there. You're taking notes.
I'm taking notes.
It's rare
Actually,
for Mr. Smith.
I was drawing pictures of Sam the Eagle, trying to get that in my head. 10,000 units. Let's talk about this a little bit. Jude, if you don't mind putting slide number 7 on. I tend to geek out. Spent a bunch of time yesterday crunching numbers And we don't really have to go into great detail, but slide number 7 was very interesting. I took a look at new construction attached going back from 2016 to 2023. And if you take a look at that, you know, the bottom line, the orange line is the number of units that were sold.
It would be nice if you mark these slides with a page number over there.
They are.
It says at the bottom,
It says slide 7.
Does he say? Where do you see
Bottom
that?
here.
Bottom left-hand corner.
Slide.
Oh, okay.
I did.
Thank you
Oh.
very much. I
Email.
missed that.
I didn't see that
stand
either.
corrected.
Yesterday
I
morning.
apologize, Keith.
Yes,
I sincerely apologize. He did do that. Slide 7. Okay, got it.
Okay, well, we probably have to talk this through because Mr. Smith didn't. Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
So if you just focus on slide 7, that's of the 32.
John Blair, good morning, my
of the
friend.
32,000 I sent you. But what's important, and we'll let Judah do his work, and I'll chat about this a little bit. Kind of what I wanted to get out there. When you take a look at this is why inventory matters and the ability to go ahead and produce more homes. So these are townhomes, new construction townhomes. You know, they start off at the 300,000 and ends up at the 460 between 16 and 23. But as Judah's working on that, gentlemen, if you take a look at the way as the inventory or the amount of sales uptick, the prices stabilized or dropped. So I kind of want to throw a softball out here. If you take a look at 22 to 23, it jumped from 127 units in 22, thank you, buddy, to the end of 23 of 310. That's almost double in inventory. Did you take a look at what happened with the prices? It dropped. So, you know, existing inventory, I'm just going to throw this for a softball out there and see who wants to pick it up. The existing inventory.
Can I push back on this a little bit?
I
Do
was gonna get a question
the
about it.
price point stabilized? Is it a drop of 7K? I wouldn't say is necessarily a significant drop. I would say stabilization there. Is that a reflection of interest rates year over year to 60, 70% increase in value in interest rates?
No. So the 22 mark, we were flirting, you know, that all of 23 we're flirting with 8.
23, we were 8. Yeah, which really.
So this is 23.
I see that.
Yeah.
I see that.
So my point is
Uh-huh.
that we had a high rate environment. Sales went up. But Neil, why did sales go up in 23?
There was more product
And why was there more product?
because Albemarle County chose to allow density in the development area where density belongs.
And
And they built it.
how long did that take to get to that point?
3 years.
How long did it take for projects to get approved and built up to that point?
10 years.
That's exactly right. So, you know, what the soapbox I'm on at the moment, and he's smiling as I'm waiting for him to jump in, is if we can, this is proof in my little world that if we can figure out a way to get more product out there, that it will help stabilize prices, in my opinion, the simple supply and demand. But I wanted to throw that out there. When I finished this slide yesterday, I expected to see it, but I didn't expect it to see it that egregious.
Before we get into that, I need a recovering developer answer, or perhaps a supervisor.
Liza.
Answer. What is the density per acre of townhome communities?
Oh, I couldn't tell you that.
But I mean, it's in what range?
Yeah, so I mean, anywhere. God, it depends on the jurisdiction. I can't quote Albemarle County.
Right, but townhomes are more dense than single family.
Yeah, so from a cost of development perspective is maybe a different way of asking the question. Townhomes are more cost effective. You take a look at that. If I didn't create a slide, but the single family detached homes got it at strong 8 in it, if not a 9. So is 460 affordable?
Right. Well, the question I'm getting at is, while you're excited about an increase in supply, where's the next increase coming?
It's not coming in Albemarle County, and I love you dearly, so I don't mean this to be negative. It's going to be in your county, in Greene County, because they have stuff in the thing.
I don't actually own Greene County.
He lives in Greene County.
Okay, Sam. Okay, Sam. So, what do you think?
Well, I mean, you know, the time that it takes to get things through, I think is getting shorter. let's use the comp plan as the bookend, maybe the bookend or the timestamp, maybe the mile marker. The last time the Board of Supervisors went through a comp plan major update was before I was on the board. And when I listened in, I was through their marathon sessions of going through each chapter. I do not recall major conversations about affordable housing happening, and not even necessarily housing happening. Now, you would know better than that because you would have probably listened in even more intently than I was back then. I was still on the school board when they started that process. I was damn near on the board by the time the process was finished because it does take a while to go through a comp plan. We've had a change in a sea change in who's running the county in the county executive's office, and that's not just personality or individual, but that's approach
And culture.
And culture. So I think all of that is moving us to, and I'm not trying to say that Albemarle doesn't deserve a reputation when it comes to how long it takes things to get through things, but I think it is improving. So, but coming down the road, more inventory, we've always talked about that, Keith, and sidebar conversations at Regional Housing Partnership and that, but just more inventory doesn't necessarily mean affordable units are going to be coming online. But of course, more units is better from the standpoint of what the local market's going to look like.
More housing everywhere for everyone.
Hashtag. You're supposed to do hashtag before that.
Hashtag.
Hashtag.
So, that's a general piece. Now, if you don't do something to help, in my opinion, if you don't do something to help subsidize the affordability of all of those units coming on, then, you could just let it go and all of those units end up being priced out where a certain segment of a huge segment of the population wouldn't be able to get into, regardless of what they are. Homes, rentals, townhomes, doesn't really matter.
As you know, I'm passionate about that, and I surely don't argue that. But about 25% of the cost for new construction is regulatory requirements, which, by the way, doesn't calculate in the cost to go through the rezoning process. That's from the point that you're rezoned going through. But the rezoning process is only a small portion of that process, right? There's projects in your home county that I know is already in the site plan process that is about a year. That's probably got another 6 to 12 months to go before they start the development side of stuff. So it won't start.
Well, I concur with that analysis, but I think there's another important point that Ned brought up. Just in the last 2 weeks, the Board of Supervisors has stepped forward with funding for affordable housing projects.
Yeah.
And I am a big proponent. If the community, the entire community, makes affordable housing a goal, and there are costs associated with providing affordable housing, the entire community should share in that cost. Do you want to talk about the project you funded?
So it was the extra phase in Southwood, and then the Premier Circle was the other.
And
Premier Circle piece.
And?
Well, those were the two specific
Those were the
ones
two
that
specific ones
that he
that
was
came.
talking about. that we
and
just
you also
did.
funded 23 units for the land trust.
Well,
That wasn't this past.
Okay.
That you're right. That's something we have done. But this last time, just those two specific ones were the ones we were in. And the Premier Circle is out on 29, and that's being run by Virginia Housing.
And it's really interesting. I had someone reach out to me, and I don't have the number in front of me, but they did the cost per square foot of Premier Circle, and it's pretty doggone high when you do that based on the entire project. And that's not saying one thing or another. I made a point when I spoke before the supervisors, which I do on occasion.
Really?
I was one speaker this week. Ned actually at one point quoted me and said, "I'm really sorry to give Neil this much airtime." It was a nice quote. But the costs,
I did not mean to be giving Neil
that's
so
what
much
it was. The costs of doing business and development in Albemarle County are high, period. Whether you're a nonprofit developer, whether you're a for-profit developer. And by the way, Habitat for Humanity, PHA are developers. You guys want to throw around this idea that developers are bad. Developers create product that has been envisioned by the comprehensive plan that was vetted by the community. They are the ones that make the dream come true and put capital at risk. So I really push back on the idea that being a developer is a bad thing. And I'm not throwing stones at what they're doing at Premier Circle. It's an aggressive project, which is fabulous. But we don't take positions on projects. We simply call out those things when you have a pro forma that's out there for everyone to see. It's important to recognize when you're spending, what is $500 or $600 a square foot to make it happen.
And I don't think developers are bad. So I think that, and that's probably said in my political grouping that I'm labeled under, might not be the best statement for me to say out loud. But I mean, we have developers around the table at the Regional Housing
Yep.
Partnership. We had developers with us in December in the incentives conversation that we brought to the table. And, there was not, at the time, Chair Price said we want to have some straight talk, some frank conversations that day. And we did, and there was no animosity there. So when you can have a meeting with that many people around the room and everybody's focused on how to achieve what we're trying to achieve, I think that's a sign that the mentalities or perhaps the mindset or the views of different groups, developers, supervisors, county, this, that, and the other, we got to get away from the whole it's us versus them type of thing and just go, we got to figure this out together, guys.
So this problem that Jerry and I have been talking about for a very long time, and all you got to do is take a look at some of these slides, and I'll post them later, about where, the volume of sales and so forth. We're all in this together, right? It's the affordable, it's the upper end buyer, it's the geezers, buyers like me, and the millennials. We're all in this, and this is too important because, Jerry will quote this, that what is, per the good Dr. Lisa Stervant, what is the housing ecosystem in the state of Virginia?
Two.
Number two. So it impacts everybody.
We just did the study, the Weldon Cooper did the study on the defense industry and the impact to the local economy. Has anybody ever done that for the development community? How
We've
many they
actually
employ?
talked about doing it, and it has been part of the challenge there is the.
Are you talking car here?
I'm talking about the Free Enterprise Forum.
Okay,
Taking a look at it.
Yeah.
And it is, housing was determined, thankfully, by the governor to be a critical industry and stayed in business
During the pandemic.
during the pandemic.
Right.
And
Thank God.
quite frankly, when you talk to people around the community, the folks that are at a minimum tangentially attached to housing is significant.
Oh, yeah.
And housing
Next to the government,
is the
it's number two.
lifeblood. Now,
I don't know if it'd be, is it number,
in the state?
I'm not sure
the
it'd be number
one-
two here in Central
what's-
Virginia.
What's the number one industry in the state?
Well,
government.
according to Lisa Sturtevant, it's government contracting or the government supply chain.
Military, the
Yeah.
whole 9 yards. It's
She's
the government.
wrong. The
Yeah.
number one business in the state is agriculture. By far.
You would know that.
By far.
Really?
In terms of straight numbers. Now, businesses, some folks consider agriculture not a business. I happen to consider agriculture a business.
Geez, I
there are
wonder why.
900 family farms operating in Albemarle County. And most of them are beef, but there's hay, there's all kinds of other things. They're not as big as some of the other counties in the state, but agriculture is the number one industry in the state.
Well,
Okay.
we're going to have the good doctor in on the second quarter. Supposed to come in this quarter, but she's widely, all over the country speaking. But
How would Neil see the top 5 shaken out industries in Central Virginia, out of curiosity?
But we have to define it.
Well, I mean, I think he's about to do that. You would say University of Virginia supply chain is one, right?
The University of Virginia, in a big way,
Yeah.
again, kind of like housing, there's so many, I think the medical only has 12,000 employees.
Right.
Something like
And
that.
do you go tourism too?
No.
Okay.
Tourism is, defense is definitely two.
Okay.
Now, the study that was done, just so that everyone knows, Weldon Cooper did a study that was released in February that was for Albemarle County and Greene County, and it showed a $1.2 billion with a B
Right.
dollar impact. About half of that was from Rivanna Station.
Okay.
That's 500,000. That's not in 500 million rather. That's not in Greene County.
Okay.
So without a doubt, the defense industry very quietly, and by design quietly,
Sure.
is number two.
Okay.
I probably, again, with the same kind of tangential thing with UVA, put tourism into the 3 spot.
Okay.
And then you've got a lot of major employers that are in 4, 5, 6 that are across a number of different industries, so I don't know exactly how to qualify those numbers.
Okay. Okay.
What do you think, Ned?
Well, I mean, depending on what, I guess, criteria you use to break that down, we had the presentation the other day where we listed the employers.
Yes.
And I'm not remembering the list exactly the way it went. And then back in the fall, when we had the local economic report from the folks at Virginia Tech that are helping our finance team, they had talked about the different industries that were the sectors that are in there. So we've got the information. I'm just not remembering exactly what
That was a
the ordered
deep
list
dive.
was.
If anybody wants to go back and watch that, it was really well done by the economists from Virginia Tech. And Ned had done his homework and was comparing last year's report to this year's report and calling out things. And I was like, okay, he read both reports all the way through and remembered some stuff.
I wish I could remember the list right now, the industry list.
The big question is, do you know where you are right now?
Right now, the coffee's kicking in.
There you go. So you kind of threw me a softball with the DOD thing, because we've been talking about this on the Regional Housing Partnership, and I'm gonna go ahead and say this out publicly. You know, I've at the public meetings for the partnership have felt that the Regional Housing Partnership should do exactly what they did for DOD for each one of the jurisdictions around housing, right? Because a lot of jurisdictions think that housing, or folks think housing may be a drain on the local government on what it brings into that, but we really don't know. There's never been an actual report that says, hey, you know, it does this and it does that. There was one done in 2011 by Virginia Housing, which is rather old, and you know, I will continue at the meeting as long as the chairperson allows me to speak to make pitches for it, because I think we're built for that with Weldon Cooper, with Carr, with whoever, to go ahead and say, okay, this is the impact of housing on the local economy and the local government, and we can break it down so when that topic comes up, there's data that supports it. But I'll keep on throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, when, you know, I think of it from the standpoint, like, I legitimately don't know. If you said, well, think of developer as a business, a local business, it is, and how many are there, how many of them are there, how
Very
many
few.
people do they employ, and then when you start interacting with the actual construction, how many people are employed to do that construction? That's the type of stuff, you know, I don't know the answers to
So
those
I would
questions.
encourage you to Google 2011. They changed the name. Help me out here, Neil. I think it was Virginia Housing. It's now, but I can't remember what it was at the time. And they actually break out the induced, the indirect, and the direct expense of that.
Right, and I also remember vividly, 15 years ago, there was because we have to have task force and studies. We had a Albemarle County task force, the fiscal impact study, and they were trying to hone in on the question, well, how much does a house have to cost for it to break even for the county? That seems to me to be a knowable number. It really does. And they weren't able to do it. And they were working with, at the time, the economist for Albemarle County, who's now up in Loudon, Steve Allshouse, good guy. And they weren't able to get it. I think there was some pressure to massage the numbers or not get to the number at the time. But it would seem to me that whether it is a house in a gated community with a golf course is what it has to be, or if it's maybe a house in Dunlora makes the break. There's a break point somewhere, and
it's
that's a knowable number.
It's a very simple number to do.
Well, you say that, and trust me when I say I'm efforting this now.
I've done this in Fluvanna County. It's not that difficult.
Okay.
Right? You just got your number of rooftops, what your budget is. You got to take out your pass-through numbers, the numbers you get from the feds.
Take out your pass-through numbers. Do you take out the commercial numbers? The commercial wouldn't exist without the residential. So does that count or doesn't it count?
I know that, but if you're going to say, you know, what is the break-even point for a rooftop, the math isn't that difficult. You just got to be willing to make the tough choices and what to pull out to do the math. And then you can figure out if a house is assessed at X, anything below that is costing the local jurisdiction money. And that's what this report does in 2000.
We had Chris Fairchild on set, supervisor for Fluvanna County, who straight up called
Chairman
housing,
now, by the way. He's chairman now.
Straight up called housing a drain on Fluvanna County.
Yeah, and
He said new rooftops was a drain on the economy of Fluvanna County on this show.
And I love Chris, that we're dear friends. When I ask, that's what makes me think about this. When I ask, I was like, I said, prove it. I don't have
Well,
to prove it.
if a new house is a drain, what is an affordable house that we're now spending taxpayer dollars to
Yeah.
create?
Let's
Is that
talk
a
ab-
super drain?
So let's talk about that,
question.
right? So,
Good
we
question.
know this because of the land trust. In today's environment, in order to buy a home and meet at least the floor of 65 AMI, you can't go over 200 grand.
Woody Fitcham just said, can service workers, police officers, and school teachers afford a $460,000 house?
Right.
So-
No. The answer's
It's no.
No.
Yeah.
So they're at this 200. So frankly, what we're doing at the land trust, I probably shouldn't talk about this, but that's never stopped me before. We're now looking at Lake Monticello, because in order for me to do something, the land trust to do something in Albemarle County, I got to bring $200,000 to $300,000 cash to the table to get that thing. Flavanna County, I'm looking at it right now. There's a great rock star of a real estate agent, Maggie Gunnels, has something at 240. I can bring 40 grand to the table and put a family in that house. So we are now actively looking out in those jurisdictions.
So you've been priced out of Albemarle County.
I just need more money, brother. That's all.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ned.
I was just going to say, that's the beauty of the question of well, what does just the development from a pure business analytics, how many businesses, how many employees,
Yeah,
et cetera.
totally.
But then when you get into the other layers of it, the benefit to having, affordable housing, everybody's mind kind of goes somewhere. That's sometimes the problem with the phrase.
It means different things.
But when we talk, because that's the first word out of most people, I want teachers and police officers and firemen to live and work in the community. And then, because if they don't, then that activity is the activity of them living their lives is happening somewhere else. Not forgetting the fact that it's just those people you would like to be here. You'd like your employees to live close by. But when they take and they're living somewhere else, then the economic activity of where they live is happening somewhere else. And this was something that VACO this year, that folks on the Eastern Shore, their whole population goes and works somewhere else. And then they come back, and there's nothing happening where they live. So it's almost like the reverse, where they go to work, all their economic activities happening, and don't bring anything back.
And 20 years ago, I wrote about this when we were having this false choice of, do we want to be Austin or Aspen, which was not a true choice. By the way, Austin is a state capital and has Dell Tech computers and a bunch of other stuff. And we don't have the mountains of Aspen. But I was, at the time, 30,000 people were commuting into Santa Barbara County for services, to be service workers, and commuting out. And I was saying, is that what we want? Now, you were quoting, I think, the transportation, the commute numbers in the meeting on Wednesday. And I can't remember the number, but I want to say that there were somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 people leaving Albemarle County, not going to Charlottesville, but going somewhere other than Charlottesville. And I was fascinated. One of the leading places they were going was Fairfax County.
I think that was Supervisor Andrews.
It was Supervisor Andrews
that
who was saying that.
was bringing that information up. But this is something that it's been over a year now since Keith. It'll be February 14th will be the year actually when we went to Nelson County
That's
to
right.
do a presentation on the Regional Housing Partnership. And Nelson County had just received their compensation study back, and we're sitting there talking about how all their teachers and firemen and police officers were living somewhere else and had to come into the county to work, couldn't afford to live in their county. So it's like this giant ripple effect where you can just take the same conversation and go to each of the 6 counties that are in the TJPDC, and they're all having the same conversation, and everybody's pushing out their own employees further and further out from where they're actually working.
It's even worse in the city of Charlottesville with police.
1982, Loudoun County was having this conversation, and specifically in a Board of Supervisors meeting that I attended. Yes, I was a nerd in 82. They said, and we need to talk about manufactured housing as a solution for our public service workers.
Comments are coming in really fast. Let's see if we can get to a lot of these. John, Blair, I'm going to get to yours here in a matter of moments for Ned Galloway specifically. This is from Deep Throat, who often is commenting on the I Love Seville show. This guy is extremely well-studied and backed by data. He's speaking specifically, in fact, multiple people speaking specifically to Neil on that number, wanting to know the study. He says, on the question of impact of new homes, it's almost certainly negative. You need businesses. They are massive net contributors. Neil's break even is a very good number to know. You can't get that to one number, but you can do it for different housing types and cases. But generally, if the house had kids in public school, almost totally sure it will be a net loser for the jurisdiction. And I've sent this research, he says, to a number of the jurisdictions, including the city of Charlottesville. So that's along the lines of what Fairchild has been saying on Fluvanna County.
But back to my point is that we, and thank you to Deep Throat for this, that if we actually go through what you guys did for DOD and actually do it, then we can, it may take forever and it may be expensive, but at least we would have something.
Well, and we could utilize the same data that the county schools provide today. Townhouses generate fewer kids than single-family homes.
And apartments fewer.
And apartments fewer than that. And so you have those metrics there. It is not as easy as dividing by rooftops. I wish it was. I would have done it a while ago.
And I will tell you, your county, Greene County, is one of the few counties that do this. But when you do a rezoning application, you need to provide a fiscal impact analysis.
Yes.
And there are firms that do this.
Yes.
Out around the country that they can do that.
A lot of stuff coming in from some smart people. This is for Supervisor Galloway from John Blair. Jerry, I think Ned Galloway has been a key component in setting a tone at the Board of Supervisor level that is more housing supply oriented and economic development friendly than past boards.
Agreed.
He needs to get a pat on the back for helping establish this tone. Here's a fun fact for you all from Weldon Cooper. Agriculture and timber accounted for 11% of gross state product in 2022. That's 1 out of every $9 in the Commonwealth were generated from agriculture and timber, which goes to back the point Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, has made about that being the #1 industry in the Commonwealth and not government, which counters what Dr. Lisa Sturtevant has said.
I have a lot of respect for Dr. Sturtevant.
No, you're not throwing shade.
Yeah. I mean, look, it all depends on how you split the apple, right? You know, and we don't know exactly what she's looking at. We're going to ask her.
Go ahead.
But I want to talk to John's point. I had a brief conversation with the new Economic Development Director in Albemarle County, Barry Albrecht. And he... And I followed it up with a thank you, and then I said, I spoke a little bit about where Albemarle had been, and I said, it's really important to know where you've been. And so I went back to 2016, and I had a blog post about economic development in 2016, and it literally said, one of the key, that we were turning the ship at that point. And I wanted to, it was the X-Files, I want to believe you. But it was quite honestly, until that shift, the surrounding counties, the second thing they said, beside their name, is, and we're not Albemarle. That was their pitch for securing business. That's not really the case today. And that's a big step forward.
Well, in case in point, we had a great economic development conversation at that was one of the chapters. Mm-hmm. And actually, Parks and Rec and economic development, I felt, were some of the cleanest in terms of objective to goals. Mm-hmm. Tracking, I can see how those objectives meet that. And then once the action steps come in, if those are tight already, then the action steps will probably be tight. So I'm proud of our economic development team in Albemarle County. I think.
And by the way, there was a small team in 2014-15 of 1 or 2 people, not a true director. There was an economic development specialist. And in fact, we didn't even use the terms economic development until 2016, because that was really language that was not welcome in Albemarle County.
And John's too kind, so I appreciate John.
He's giving you props.
But I love the fact that he's so engaged. I've been watching his commentary as different things go through the General Assembly right now. So Neil is one of these folks that are sitting there paying attention and putting the content out there for everybody else to take it in. I just find that really valuable, because that's not, it's connected to what you do. John's obviously interested, but putting that information out is good for the community.
Especially as the community is becoming somewhat of a news desert. So I concur with what Supervisor Galloway said.
I'm seeing your fingers
it's
move
coming
there.
in extremely fast.
Before you do that, just
Extremely fast.
follow off of that. Neil won't do this, but if you like what Neil does, do yourself a favor, support his organization and donate to it.
Free Enterprise Forum, guys. Support the Free Enterprise Forum. So this one's from tenured economic professor. He's a PhD at UVA. Jerry, as you know, we love your content and are routinely watching in the economic in our department at the university. To back what Deep Throat just said, there's no question new housing with children is an economic drain on any jurisdiction. The numerous studies are there to back what Deep Throat has said. And he then says, Neil Williamson, please turn that magnet around. We routinely read your stuff on the Free Enterprise Forum. The magnet was backwards, so they read you at UVA, Neil Williamson. And he says there's no question the area needs the study that you guys are talking about done.
So to play off of that a little bit, so we get national data. We as part of NAR get national data. We've got
National Association of Realtors.
Thank you. I take a deep dive into United Van Lines, which talks about why people are moving back and forth. But 2023, according to NAR, the boomers outsold the millennials, which is the first time in a couple of years. Part of this report needs to talk about the profiles of folks coming in and out. I don't have access to that. Weldon Cooper probably does, the UVA professors. I'm sure they have access to that. But that's part of what I would want to put in this report is, okay, where are people coming? You know, what's their income? You know, why are they moving here and in and out? And I think it's just information that needs to get out to the decision makers, right, to decide if this is a good thing or not. Who knows? You know, I'm pro housing, and I'm without a doubt pro housing, but that data may come back and say, look, ooh, you know.
Well, I in that 2016 post, and we were talking about the economic development and the change, I wrote a line that I read and I thought, oh, that was pretty good.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
I'll do
That was a humble brag.
The humble brag. The idea that no longer
You want to get the other side?
So track what he says and do the Muppet questionnaire and just answer him.
no longer is
No, I'm done with
Albemarle
Sam. He's
is no
totally
longer Albemarle looking at should we eat our vegetables regarding economic development. They're asking, do you want peas or carrots? And that peas or carrots question again came up on Wednesday. What kind of jobs do we want? You know what we want? We want jobs. We want jobs of all levels.
Yeah, but what's happening, and this is, and Jerry's fingers are flying here. So, you know, Jerry's been talking about this. We've been talking this for a while. The jobs are coming, and they're multiple six-figure jobs. That's the reason we're at 123,300, right?
HUD, according to HUD, per household income.
Per household. Thank you. So, you know, as the housing guy at the table, where we're going to put these folks. And, you know, we're looking at our sales volume for the car footprint. There's a number of units sold, everything matches 2016. We are at 2023, we're at a 2016 level. Albemarle County's flat, but the city of Charlottesville is 35% below, that would be slide number 3, is 35% below 2016 numbers.
And if you go back to 2014 and look at every year for the number of production, housing unit production in Albemarle County, there are 3 years where it topped over 1,000 units. Yeah. 3.
Yeah.
And you're talking about how many jobs coming?
Oh, God.
This is a good question right here. Multiple. She's an engineer and a realtor, I believe, and then
Yes.
Multiple realtors have followed up saying they want to know the answer to this as well. Carly Wagner is asking this question: do special use permits follow the property, the owner, or the applicant? If one tenant moves out from a property that was needing the special use permit, can a new tenant move in and operate under the same special use permit, or does it matter who the applicant was, tenant or owner?
Great question.
Do you want to take that one?
I mean, you'll know the ins and outs of it. There are some that wish it was just for the applicant. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, there is actually a bill in the General Assembly today that talks about this. Right now, Virginia State Code indicates special use permits are dictated by the parcel and the considerations of the parcel, and they convey with the parcel. Now, there are some that are trying to have done things to create limitations on that. Requiring an annual registration or an annual license for a homestay. That makes it so that you can do a homestay, but you aren't licensed, and then all of a sudden you're in violation of local code.
So would that be specific to homestays?
That would be-
Homestays are Airbnbs for those that are
Right.
layman
So
terms.
homestay is an Airbnb, and in general, state code looks at short-term rental, which is any rental less than 30 days, to be that folks have a special use permit for. The localities can require that, and if they get that, it can convey with the land. But by creating the licensure program, they kind of pervert that intent.
So big level SUP, special use permit, for those of us that are not in this world, the process is exactly like a rezoning. You have to go through the whole process, and the Board of Supervisors get to put conditions on that. That's the big difference between a rezoning and a special use permit. I know you're talking about something specific for that, but in a general terms, and currently, to answer the question directly, it attaches to the land.
Right.
As the land moves through it, you turn out and buy it, you inherit those. Think about it from the real estate agents that are watching. Think about it as a easement
It's
on a piece
easement
of,
or encumbrance.
easement is the simplest way to explain it, that it runs with the land.
And
Go
there's
ahead.
often times where there's a special use permit attached to a rezoning, and they've got to do it all at
Yeah,
one
that-
time. But the homestay one is where the conversation about, or the angst about it going with the land comes up the most in discussion.
Yes.
Which I can understand why.
But I just wanted to get a quick analysis out there.
Randy O'Neill, modern economic development is focused on less workforce and all other margins like high rent and taxes. It works everywhere but government. You can't approach them and say, I will reduce costs and improve services by exceeding goals and reducing workforce.
The problem with that is it's so
I know-
damn expensive to develop it. You have to go to high-end
He
stuff.
says, another thought, does a new small business want location or sites? Randy, I appreciate that. There's a lot of good comments coming in.
And
How
this
about-
is a conversation I have with my local rural Board of Supervisor friends all the time. You know, they can't grasp the rooftops versus business, right? You know, Louisa County, there's a couple of businesses that wanted to come and design Crossroads that I'm helping that just won't come because there's no workers to fill. And these are really good businesses, good high-tech kind of stuff that you would want there. So, you know, it's a kind of a chicken and egg
Well,
thing.
and to the question of sites, and it came up in the conversation about economic development, there is a dearth of sites available in Albemarle County that are ready to move into. And that's not just for new businesses, that's for expanding businesses that are already here. People are leaving Albemarle County because there's nowhere to grow.
I believe
John Durst?
current supervisor
okay.
Michael Pruitt watching the program right now. Kevin Higgins in Greenwood, hello, welcome to the broadcast. Lonnie Murray, welcome to the broadcast. Love you, Lonnie. You're welcome anytime. Multiple developers on the 5 developers watching the program right now that I can count. A handful of realtors watching the program right now. Let's get to this follow-up on the SUP. She was wondering if a nonprofit has one private school vacate a property that was using an SUP and a new school wants to move in. It sounds like the SUP will or should still cover the new school. Is that right? Or unless the bill Neil mentioned, revise this. And then I got more questions
the
coming.
bill hasn't been passed yet.
The bill,
right?
the
So
bill
it's
is
going
one of,
through there.
well, I mean, literally this morning I was under the weight of 2,000 bills as I was reviewing things this morning. But
That's an exhilarating life you lead. Neil.
I know.
Here you go. Here it comes again.
The idea that the school would, I mean,
probably is,
it's 1,500 in
Yeah,
just the house.
Oh, no, I'm not doubting you. I'm not doubting
If
you.
you go to Richmond Sunlight and look up my photosynthesis, I'm tracking specifically over 100 bills. But the school itself would likely have some additional specifics that would need to be dealt with. I'm always amazed. Schools that do special use permits sometimes paint themselves in a corner. And the supervisors actually try and help them. And they say, don't you want to say, occasionally you'll have a night event or until 4:30 so you can have after-school tutoring? Because they say, well, our hours are from 8 to 3. Yeah, but every now and again, doesn't your staff stay? And so they don't want to put you in a place where you're in violation of your special use permit.
Which
Or
I
the
respect
student
that.
population.
Or your
Some
student
will say,
popula-
well, we've got
How many-
180, we're going to grow to 200. Really? Are you going to stay at 200?
Yeah, and how many times have they had to come back for a new number?
New number.
So we're getting close to running
No,
out of
we can
time.
go. Let's keep going. This is
so,
great.
So, Carly, do me a favor. reach out to me, send me the SUP. We'll go ahead and read it because what's in the SUP matters
Yes.
because they're conditions, and those are the conditions you're going to have to live with. Or you go ahead and I'm assuming we might be looking at trying to buy a piece of property or something along those lines. You just go ahead and get a long enough study period that you go back to your board and amend and try to amend.
That's a
as
long
you-
study period.
That is a very long study period, right? But
If it's exact, though, if the use would be exact to what existed prior, then that should convey.
And I'm out of curiosity, and this is just me
9 times
spitballing
out of
right
10,
now.
it's probably-
I'm
Probably
very
not.
curious, and this is just me spitballing, if this is tied to Charlottesville Catholic and its choice for a high school, because it goes up to the 8th grade, and
Yeah.
whether or not it needs additional land to create a high school, because
Yeah,
I know that's something that's in the conversation for that respective school.
So the smart move, not the smart, and Carly's on track with this. Just have her reach out to me. I can put her into some people that we can get in front of Ned's board. But the right path is to amend it to what you're trying to do and listen to what Neil is saying and don't box yourself into a corner.
This is the word upzoning. This is a great one from Jennifer. She goes, you guys have gone almost an hour and haven't mentioned the word upzoning. It's clearly on the tip of everyone's tongue because of what Charlottesville's doing. Would Albemarle County consider upzoning just the urban ring or the 5% development area so we can maintain or preserve the remaining 95% as most of us want to keep it green? That's a great question right there.
I mean, it's a question that's been being asked a lot, obviously, because of what's going on in Charlottesville. It's not been discussed at all.
No,
And
it's been raised, the idea of expanding the development area has
Yeah.
also been raised by someone occasionally.
well,
and did that not
we
come
had,
up in the regional housing partner? I didn't attend the thing, but didn't the growth of the going to come up with the developer incentive?
the
concept?
closest thing I think we've had, because it's one way for me to answer that question. That's
Yeah.
the politician, then it's a different way if it's the
Nobody's
supervisor.
watching. Answer it
But
any
you
way
know
you
what
want.
I mean. So it's like, well, how do you substantively actually start addressing that question, knowing the reality of what's going on? So in the last few years, the only time anything close to this conversation was actually discussed at the board was when an affordable housing overlay was brought to the board.
Yeah.
And it basically gave us by right to max out the density in the different properties. And the temperature at the time, because that affordable housing overlays never come back, and I was one that even talked about, with developments that are in my district specifically at max density, knowing the infrastructure and the impacts around it, I don't know that I was, at the time especially, I wasn't ready to give up the ability to consider it project by project. Now, there are people that have been, since that then, the offline conversations, individual supervisor, and watching what's going on with Charlottesville and hearing from folks to say, well, this is part of the answer of how you could potentially get there.
I can speak from it from a national
Learning.
perspective.
Different perspective now than I had a few years ago.
I can speak from a national perspective because I'm part of a couple of national cohorts. What Charlottesville did is on the tip of the tongue of quite a few people around the country to kind of take a look at that, and was wondering what Neil's thoughts are.
I again am called to the movie Airplane when Leslie Nielsen is asked, what did you have for dinner? And she said, we served the chicken and the fish. And he said, yeah, I had lasagna. I don't believe that we have the solution as just one thing.
One thing, right.
I believe that creating new districts, expand the existing development area, but create a transitional area to the rural area that maybe doesn't get the water and sewer, maybe has a different level of services. And that's even larger than the enlarged development area. And those parcels will be allow them to be 2 instead of 21 acres.
Back in the day, that was
Back in the day, that's what they did. And by the way, you know who has this policy today in their comprehensive plan? Loudoun County, Virginia.
Yeah. So back in the day, that was it. That was the 2-acre subdivision.
I would love to get as many viewers and listeners' commentary and questions in. There's a lot of good stuff here. So Deep Throat says, what Keith is asking for, I've done a deep dive on Albemarle County Public School, ACS public use microdata. Help me with that, Neil, what he's talking about?
I'm not sure.
maybe he's talking about Albemarle County Public Schools microdata and who's coming in and who's going out
great.
for our area. So he's got that. He can provide
Thank
that.
you.
He says,
Thank you.
according to our data, the problem is that the jobs are coming and they are bringing the job holders from the outside. Economic development that brings in businesses with the employees is quite risky for the people already living in place. That leads to gentrification, as we know.
And to play off of that, so that's the thing that I'm trying to work at with this program. I don't have access, Deep Throat probably does, to where the jobs are coming to our region. I know where it's coming from the state, right? Most of them.
I mean, the University of Virginia straight up said on the record, and I've said this many times, that the $100 million gift that Paul Manning gave for the Biotech Institute, that it's going to be 3,000 new jobs, all six figures, no one tied to the area. And they said that on the record at a press conference. They're not, trying to dice or stand away from that. This is a good one. I think it would be nice to hear the panel discuss their vision and hopes for the rural crossroad concept that is proposed for the new comp plan. I'd love to see some mom and pop shops in Free Union, but I do not want to see Free Union be Tyson's Corner in the next generation. Yes, Tyson's was a rural crossroads when I grew up there.
As was Fair Oaks when I grew up there. Pender Veterinary Clinic was at the corner of 50. And I think that the supervisors discussed this at some length and expressed some trepidation with the idea.
It was popping up, right, the other day at the comp plan. It's definitely a conversation that needs to just get in front of us in a work session, and we need to start discussing it through, because it's almost like it's coming up on the peripheral of other things right now. And when it does come up, since it's not necessarily scheduled for the discussion that day, we don't really get into the discussion.
So the Free Enterprise Forum has a belief that some level of services should be provided to residents of Albemarle County so that they don't have to travel 40 miles to get their oil changed. Now, does that mean you have to have a Jiffy Lube? No. What does it mean? It means you should be able to get basic stuff. You don't need a Whole Foods, but you need to have the Whitehall Market. You need to have those things that you can get some basics nearby. And what happens if you don't? You're in violation of the number 2 lens that you're evaluating the whole comprehensive plan by, which is climate change.
Right. Well
So
said, Neil.
I have only national data from United. To Jerry's point, United Van Lines, inbound in 2023, the largest number was 33% came for a job. The smallest number coming in was actually retirement at 9.
And I don't even think we've seen the impact yet with 11 billion, Louisa, Amazon, the 200 to 300 million north of Grumman and Waynesboro. They're not going to live in Waynesboro. They're going to be living in Crozet in the western Albemarle County. We haven't seen the impact of Jaffrey's Data Science School. We haven't seen the impact of the Biotech School. UVA expanded enrollment. I mean, we will have a population increase, and those coming will bring bags of money with them.
And I'm not as smart as Deep Throat or the good professors. I'm just a simple guy. But looking at 2022 numbers for the same company, job was down at 15%. So it's job moving in the last 12 months, out of state and inbound moves, more than doubled.
Neil, because of Neil's commentary, a shout out to Harris Auto Body in Dyke, an amazing shop. That's Carly. This comment's come in, and this is in response to upzoning the urban ring. This is from Tom, who lives in the Scottsville district. I know this gentleman well. He says, if the urban ring is not upzoned, then the natives will continue to be restless. Albemarle County needs to realize and needs to give a little to keep the remaining 95% as we want it.
And before I forget, I also want to give a shout out to Maybell's Market. It's well worth the trip out in Dyke. It's a great place to grab a sandwich.
Standardsville's is just as good.
It is. It's right in the middle of town, but Dyke is a fun drive. I'm not sure. Here's where the politician Ned Galloway can help me. When I look at the magisterial districts, 25 years ago, Albemarle County made a decision that every magisterial district includes part of the development area and part of the rural area. I want to say it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, the densities in the development areas made it so that the rural areas could, though they're not being ignored, could be ignored. And if you win the development area, it doesn't matter what happens in the rural area. And so the 95% of the land mass may not have the
Density.
political will.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
That tracks. The population lives in the in my district, the population lives in the
The ring.
in the ring.
Yeah.
So I've never actually gone back and looked at the numbers. That obviously I've looked and said, all right, well, if you just look at it from a political party standpoint, you know which of my vote, which precincts are a little bit more liberal, which ones are more conservative, and how that breaks out. But my guess is just that knowing where the numbers of people live, that would likely track.
Well, I mean, take the Scottsville district. You could carry the town of Scottsville. You could carry Glenmore. But if you get hammered in Mill Creek, you're going to lose.
Well, and that's happened. There's
That
been
100%
times
that's
where
happened.
Somebody's won all the precincts except Mill Creek.
Right.
And then the winner of Mill Creek wins if it's carried by a certain margin, can wipe out the wins by the opponent in the other district.
And Mill Creek identifies with the city of Charlottesville's politics, where Glenmore is more neutral, town of Scottsville is certainly right-leaning. So it really offers a dichotomy, if you may, at the voter booth.
What matters?
Elections matter.
So we have a new deputy county executive. I'm sure it's fine to talk about this. A new deputy county executive, Ann Wall. Great, she was here, and she's been, so as the supervisors get to know her, we've been doing some driving tours of our district, and I just got to do mine a couple days ago. And of course, one of the questions was, well, what are some of the top things that you've been hearing about from your constituents, or what are the top issues? And I said, well, actually, that doesn't really work that way. Let's drive around and I'll tell you what the concerns are based on where we're at in the district. Because the issues do come in different ways depending on where people live. At least in the Rio district, I assume it would be the same way in the other districts. So it wasn't so much so that here are the top 3 issues. I said one issue that everybody cares about is how fast everybody drives on the roads. And what kind of danger that is. But then when you start going around and say, well, here's what the concerns would be in this area of the district. Here's concerns in this area, et cetera. So, to the point of, well, who has the sway, rural versus development area in an election, I think, regardless of what your political party is, if you're not responding or listening to the actual everyday just things that people are contending with and need help with, then you're not going to be in your seat very long because you're just not being responsive to what.
Well, this is why I asked the politicians.
And I've always wondered this as a follow-up. As a supervisor, and you're a fantastic supervisor, are you voting by your district's needs or wants, or are you voting as the county in totality? And a sub-question to that is, do you prioritize votes in the urban ring over those outside the urban ring? Because from a Democratic standpoint, there's more votes in the urban ring, and you're supposed to do democracy here from a politics standpoint?
So here's how I think about it.
Okay.
I ran for the seat initially back in 2017 was the election, and to Neil's dismay, I did not have an opponent. Not because it's anything to do with Ned, he just likes competitive elections. But I ran on a platform. And whether or not I had the opponent in one or don't have the opponent in one, I then take confidence in the fact that what I ran on my platform are what the residents of the people that voted for me are supportive of and are interested in. And then I state those priorities, and then I vote that way from a countywide perspective. So when I say things like pay attention to how we vote in the budget, what I'm saying to the people that have voted for me is, did what I say out there when I wanted the seat track with the votes that you see me taking once I'm in the seat? If I've changed my mind or a vote doesn't track, then why? And do you agree or disagree with me? Because the next time you perhaps have a chance to vote for me, then it's your decision to say whether or not you still support or not support. So it doesn't come down to, I'm going to be, if it's a Rio district specific element, a development, or perhaps it's an SUP, or perhaps it's something to do with economic development or a business or something that's coming in. Well, everybody else kind of looks to the sitting supervisor of the district to be the specialist for the district and to convey all the sides that are occurring in the localized district. But if each supervisor started making decisions just on their district alone, then why even have a comp plan and why have strategic plans?
Why have a supervisor? Why not have a direct democracy? And
What does that mean?
Direct democracy is where you vote on everything individually.
California.
And it is that's a good example of headed that direction. But one of the things that concerns me is when 30 people speak and someone votes a different way, well, then they're not being representative.
Yeah.
Well, was I consistent with what I said I was going to do? And, I have to evaluate as a supervisor, they have to evaluate each and every item based upon their political philosophy. And if people aren't agreeing with that, throw the bums out. Or, thank God, please let somebody run against them so they can throw them out.
And I know you want to say something. I think in the last race with Supervisor Malik, who I believe this is 5 straight terms
Yeah.
for Supervisor Malik, she ran against Brad Rickel,
Yeah.
and Rickel lost. It was closer than people expected, but was the political science the right play by Rickel by focusing potentially out of the density of Crozet, where
ran what was
Malik got much more Crozet vote, and that pushed her to a 5th term?
As somebody who ran and lost in a district I knew I was never going to win because of this funny accent I have on it, you run because you believe you can make a difference. And I'm
Don't you run because you think you can win?
no,
No.
I mean
Nobody runs for public office with the idea they want to ruin the community.
No. But don't
No,
you
no,
run
no,
for public office because you believe you can
yeah,
win the race?
You,
What is the
I'm-
point of
I'm
running
a
if you don't think you
a
can-
competitive enough person that yes, of course I wanted
Yeah.
to win, but the intent was to try to make my community a better place. The voters decided I was not the right person to do that. That was a tough question that you got asked. I just want to let you know you handled
Yeah,
that perfectly.
dude, you're a pro on this.
Well, I think, it's not none of us are perfect that sit on the board. I think I appreciate that Neil did a call out with a tweet. What do you call these things now? Are they still tweets?
I think
Even though
so.
It's X's.
X.
He said, well, if anybody doubts that the supervisors do their homework, they should be listening into the comp plan discussion that we were having the other day. Because I think people, once they're there and they run, are interested in doing the work of being
It's a
the
tough
supervisor.
freaking job.
And we're not perfect. I had to send
many
I
hours
missed
you
an
put
email
in?
and had to send him like, oh my God, I missed the email. And
How
thankfully,
many hours you put in?
it changes every.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's
You're
different.
being kind. It's a lot.
Just
And
depends on the week.
in order to do this job well, it's a full-time job. And
Well-
then you have a full-time job and you have family to take care of. It's a tough thing. One may not ever agree or disagree with, Chris Fairchild, love him to death. But he and I do not see eye to eye on lots of things, but I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. And I think it comes this way. I usually have to give him a couple shots of bourbon before I get some. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's
Thank you.
nice when
I was
you
looking for
have-
somebody.
especially I think sometimes with just the state not making commentary on it of local news and news coverage, having other folks that are finding different ways to get the content out there. So, like Woody Fincham when he's on there,
Yeah.
that's a must listen to. I go back and re-listen to many of the sessions that you guys have if I can't listen to it live, because it's like, all right, that's content I need to be able to come in. So
He's watching.
I'm thrilled that there are people like Neil and others and the folks that are chiming in. It'll be fun to go back and read through all those comments and questions, because that's information. If that doesn't happen or this venue doesn't occur for that to happen, then we are void of that information, and that's not a good thing.
Especially as the region or the area is changing when it comes to news. The legacy news, and I hate to say this because I'm a news junkie like everyone here, just being decimated. And in a community is better when it has accountability, and accountability comes from people that report news.
It's we're approaching 5 years, Jerry and I, doing this together.
I mean, we go an hour and 15 minutes here without stopping.
Yeah, and
And I think this gentleman's got to
And we're-
get to work over here.
and we got 15 minutes over where we're supposed to stop.
Yeah.
So thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. It's been a long time for the Ned and Neil show, so we need to reschedule it again, please. I can speak for myself. This is a lot of fun just to sit back and listen and learn. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming in.
The show is archived, guys, wherever you get your podcasts. We prefer you find it on realtalkwithkeithsmith.com, but it's live on all social media platforms. Judah Wickhauer keeps us online and doing what we like to do, which is talk about a community we love. For Keith Smith, Neil Williamson, and Ned Galloway, my name is Jerry Miller, and the I Love Seville show is up in 59 minutes. So long, everybody.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good work. It was awesome.
Definitely Sam the Eagle.